The alarm did not give us time to be afraid. It simply screamed, and then the whole station shook as if a giant hand had slapped it from the outside. I was on the lower comms deck when it happened, my 3 hands resting on the cool surface of the signal board. I am Sael, a signal keeper of the HFY, and my work had always been quiet. I listened to the soft hum of distant ships. I sent gentle messages between sleepy colonies. Nothing in my training had prepared me for the sound that came pouring into my ears that morning, the sound of the Vral arriving in our sky. They came without warning. One moment our orbital station hung peacefully above Vaelsha, our soft green colony world, and the next moment, the sensors lit up with shapes I did not understand. Long, dark ships, ugly and curved like hooks, slid out of empty space and surrounded us. There were 11 of them. They did not call. They did not ask. They began to break our defense satellites apart, one by one, the way a child might pull petals from a flower. My breathing came fast and thin. I am not built for fear. None of us are. The HFY left war behind generations ago. Our ancestors fled a burning home and swore a great promise, that we would never build a weapon again, that we would live softly and harm no one. We kept that promise. We grew gardens instead of guns. We taught our children that violence was a sickness, a disease that only the cruelest world still carried. And now the sickness had come to our door, and we had nothing to fight it with. Sal. The voice belonged to Elder Onua, the leader of our station council. She floated into the comms deck, her pale eyes wide with a fear she was trying to hide. Send the call. The Concord call. All channels. Now. My hands moved before my mind could catch up. The Concord of settled worlds was the great family of peaceful peoples. Dozens of species who, like us, had grown up on gentle worlds and built a calm and graceful civilization together. They had fleets. They had power. Surely they would come. I opened every channel I had. I poured our distress signal into the dark, the oldest plea in the galaxy, the simple message that means we are dying. Please help us. I sent our location. I sent the count of the enemy ships. I sent the number of lives on our world below, every one of them counting on the signal I was throwing into the cold. Then I waited. Around me, the station groaned. Another satellite died. The Vral ships were moving closer now, slow and patient, like something that knows its meal cannot run. Anything? Onua asked. Nothing yet, I said. My voice did not sound like my own. The first reply came after 12 long minutes. It was from the Concord patrol fleet stationed 2 systems away. My chest lifted with hope. I read the message aloud as it scrolled across my board. They regret to inform us, I said slowly, that the situation is, in their words, outside their operational scope. They advise us to evacuate. Onua stared at me. Evacuate to where? With what ships? I had no answer. I sent another plea. I marked it as urgent, the highest level, the kind of message that is only used when a whole people may end. The second reply came from the Veshti Compact, a wealthy garden world with the finest warships in the sector. They send their deepest sorrow, I read, and the words tasted like ash, but the distance is too great, and the risk to their crews too high. They wish us strength. One after another, the answers came, and each one was the same. The Scythii were too far. The Lorien Council was in session and could not act quickly. The beautiful worlds, as they called themselves, all had reasons, all had regrets, all wished us well, and all of them stayed exactly where they were. I understood then, with a cold and sinking feeling, what peace had cost us. We had built a civilization so gentle that no one in it was willing to bleed for a stranger. Everyone wished us well. No one came. Onua sank slowly toward the floor. Send it again, she whispered. Send it to everyone. Send it to anyone. So I did. I stopped aiming the signal only at the polite, civilized worlds. I let it spill out in every direction, across every frequency, even the rough and forgotten ones, the channels that no respectable Concord world would ever use. I sent our cry into the parts of the galaxy that the gentle peoples pretended did not exist. And from one of those forgotten channels, against all hope, something answered. The signal was rough and scratchy, full of noise, the kind of careless transmission that the Concord engineers would have sneered at. But the voice inside it was clear and calm. and shockingly warm. Valsha Station, this is Terran Free Fleet Element. Do you copy? We hear you. Say again your situation. Over. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked tight. Terran. Humans. The word alone made my skin crawl. Every Ilve child knew the stories. The humans came from a world we called, in our oldest texts, a death world. Earth. A place of crushing weight, where the very pull of the ground was strong enough to break the bones of a softer species. A sky full of poison and fire. Oceans that could swallow whole cities. Creatures with claws and teeth that hunted in the dark. And worst of all, the humans themselves, who had grown up in that nightmare and somehow survived it, who had climbed to the top of a world that tried to kill them every single day. The Concord did not let humans dock at their stations. They classified them, in cold official language, as a death world threat. They were not invited to the gatherings of gentle peoples. They lived out on the edges, in their ugly ships, doing the dangerous work that no civilized world would touch. They were the monsters of our bedtime stories, the things we were taught to fear. And now one of them was speaking to me, asking me to say again my situation, as calmly as if we were old friends. My hands shook above the board. Sael. Onua had risen again. She had heard the voice too. Her face had gone gray. Who is that? It is a human ship, I said. The words felt strange and terrible in my mouth. A human fleet, they answered. For a long moment, nobody on the comms deck spoke. The station shook again as another satellite fell. The Vral were nearly upon us now. We had minutes, perhaps, and the only hand reaching out to us in all the wide and gentle galaxy belonged to the thing we feared most. Onua closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was something new and hard in them, something I had never seen in any Ilve before. Answer them, she said. I almost could not do it. My fingers hovered over the board, every instinct screaming at me to cut the channel, to stay with the safe and civilized worlds who had refused us, rather than to speak with the monster who had not. It made no sense. The peaceful ones had let us die. The Deathworlder had come. And still my fear pulled me toward the wrong choice. I pushed through it. I opened the channel. Terran ship, I said, and my voice trembled. This is Signal Keeper Sael of Valsha. We are under attack. 11 Vral vessels. They are destroying our defenses. We have a colony of 2 million below. We have no weapons. We have no way to fight. The Concord has refused us. My voice broke. We are out of time. There was a pause, just a breath of static. And then the human voice came back, and it was no longer calm. It had sharpened into something focused and fierce, like a blade being drawn. Copy all, Sael. 2 million, no defenses. Vral raiders, we've got your position locked. A second of silence. All ships, this is Dawson. You heard the lady. Light the engines. Burn for Valsha, hard as they'll go. We are not arriving fashionably late to this one. Wait, I said quickly. Wait, where are you? How far? The Vral are almost here. Even if you come, you cannot reach us in time. No fleet could. The voice, this Dawson, gave a short, dry laugh that I did not understand. It was not cruel. It was something closer to grim amusement, the sound of someone who had heard the word impossible too many times to be impressed by it anymore. Sael, she said, let me tell you something about my crew. We don't have a setting for too far. We burned the moment we heard you. We've been burning since you said the word dying. We are coming hot, and we are coming heavy, and I need you to do exactly one thing for me. Can you do one thing? I swallowed. Yes. Hold on, she said. Whatever happens up there in the next while, you hold on. You keep your people breathing. You keep that signal alive so we can find you in the mess. Because we are going to find you. Do you copy? I looked at Onua. I looked at the dark ships filling our sky. I looked at the trembling station around me, the gentle home of a gentle people who had never once in all our long history raised a hand to anyone, and who were about to be torn apart for it. And I made a choice I never thought an Ilve would make. I put my faith in a monster. I copy, I said. We will hold on. Good, said Dawson. Then hold the line, Valsha. The humans are coming. The channel hissed and went quiet. Outside, The Vral ships turned their dark hooks toward our station and began to move in for the harvest. I gripped the edge of my signal board with all three hands, and I held on. I did not yet know what was racing toward us through the black. I did not yet know what humans truly were, beneath the frightening stories. I only knew that everyone we trusted had abandoned us, and the one we feared had not. That was the moment I began to understand that I had been taught the galaxy wrong, and in the days that followed, every single thing I thought I knew about strength and mercy and what it means to be a monster would be turned completely upside down. But that came later. In that first terrible hour, all I could do was keep the signal burning, watch the enemy close in, and pray to gods I no longer believed in, that the Deathworlders were as relentless as the stories said. As it turned out, they were so much more. The Vral lead ship fired a tractor beam at our station, a sickly green cord of light meant to drag us in like a fish on a line. The station screamed against it, metal bent. Somewhere below me, a section lost pressure and sealed itself, and I tried not to think about who might have been inside it. "Sile," Onua said, her voice steady now, in a way that frightened me more than panic would have. "If the humans do not reach us, I want you to know that you did everything right. You sent the call. You kept your post. Whatever they are, you brought us a chance. That is more than the peaceful ones gave us." I wanted to tell her not to speak as if the end had come, but the green cord tightened, and the station tilted, and the cold black mouth of the Vral ship yawned open to receive us, and I could not find the words. So instead I did the only thing I knew how to do. I leaned into my signal board, and I kept the beacon burning bright, a single small light thrown out into the dark, calling to the only ones still coming. "Hold on," Dawson had said. I closed my eyes, and I held on, and somewhere far out in the cold between the stars, a fleet of scarred and ugly ships pushed their engines past every safe limit, racing toward a world full of strangers they had never met, for no reason at all except that we had asked. The thing about waiting to be saved is that it teaches you the true shape of time. Every second stretches, every breath feels stolen. I kept the beacon burning for 3 full hours after Dawson's voice went quiet, and in those 3 hours I aged a lifetime. The Vral did not finish us, and at first I did not understand why. They had us in their grip. They could have crushed the station and pulled the wreck into their hold. Instead they slowed. They circled. They sent boarding pods toward our docking ring, slow and lazy, the movements of hunters who believe their prey is already caught and want to take it whole. That slowness, I would later learn, was their great mistake. The Vral did not hurry because they had never in their long career of raiding needed to. No one ever came for the worlds they harvested. No one ever made them pay. They moved like creatures who had forgotten that the universe could push back. They had never met a human. Sael. Onua's voice was tight. "The docking ring. The boarding pods are almost on us. Seal the inner doors." I sealed them. I rerouted power. I did everything a signal keeper could do, which was not much, because a signal keeper is not a soldier, and we had no soldiers, and the doors I sealed were thin and gentle doors, built by a people who had never imagined needing them to hold against a true enemy. And then, just as the first Vral pod kissed our docking ring, the dark space behind the enemy ships tore open, and the humans arrived. I will never forget how they came. The Concord ships I had seen in my life were beautiful things, smooth and gleaming, all soft curves and graceful lines, the ships of people who had never been chased. The human ships were nothing like that. They came roaring out of warp far too close, far too fast, in a way that should have torn them apart, and they were ugly, blunt and heavy and scarred, slabs of dark metal welded into shapes that cared nothing for beauty and everything for survival. They looked like ships that had been hit 1,000 times and simply refused to die. They looked, I thought, like something had tried to hunt them once, and lost. There were 9 of them, 9, against 11 Vral raiders, and they did not slow down. They did not circle. They did not send polite warnings. They came in hot and hard, straight at the enemy, with the desperate, joyful fury of a people who had been racing for hours and had finally arrived at the fight. My board lit up with their names as they checked in to the local channel, and the names told me everything I needed to know about who they were. Hold the Line, Spite, Cold Harbor, Last Light, stubborn. Names that were not graceful, not beautiful, but defiant. The names of ships built by people who had decided long ago that giving up was not in them. Vailsha Station, this is Dawson, aboard Cold Harbor. The warm, fierce voice was back, and now I could hear the strain in it, the long, hard hours of the burn that had brought them here. We see you. We see the pods on your ring. We're going to peel them off you. Keep your people back from the docking sections, and keep that beacon lit. We've got you now. We've got you now. 3 small words. I had heard 100 official messages from 100 civilized worlds in my life, full of careful language and gentle regret. None of them had ever made me feel the way those 3 rough human words did. Something in my chest, something I had no name for, came loose. The humans hit the Vral like a storm hitting a coast. I watched it all from my board, the sensors painting the battle in cold lines of light, and I did not have the words for what I saw. The Vral ships were larger. There were more of them. By every measure the Concord taught us, the humans should have hung back, should have traded careful blows from a safe distance, should have fought the slow and sensible fight. The humans did none of that. They drove straight into the middle of the enemy formation, into the worst possible position, and they did it on purpose. Their ugly ships took blows that should have ended them and kept firing through it. Where a Concord captain would have pulled back to protect a wounded ship, the humans pushed forward, putting themselves between the enemy and us, taking hit after hit, so that the Vral guns never once swung back toward the station full of helpless colonists. Why, I breathed, watching a human ship called Stubborn swing across our station like a shield, soaking up fire that had been meant for us. Why are they doing that? Why are they protecting us instead of saving themselves? Onua had no answer. She only stared, her gentle eyes full of something between terror and awe. A new voice cut into the channel, younger than Dawson's, sharp and quick. Cold Harbor, this is Holly on Spite. I've got 2 raiders peeling toward the colony surface. Looks like they're going for the population centers. I'm on them. Go, Dawson said. Don't let them touch the ground. Owen, support her. Copy, Captain, said a deep, steady voice. On Holly's wing. I did not know these people. I had never seen their faces. But I learned their names that hour, the way you learn the names of those who carry you out of a fire, and I have never forgotten them. Holly, quick and fearless. Owen, steady as stone. Dawson, who held them all together with her calm and her fury. And the others, dozens of others, ordinary humans in scarred ships, all of them flinging themselves into a fight that was not theirs, for a people they did not know. The 2 raiders Holly chased had broken away to dive at our colony below, and I understood with horror what they meant to do. Vailsha was undefended. Our cities had no shields against orbital attack. We had never built any. We had never needed to imagine it. Holly's ship, Spite, fell on the raiders like something out of an old nightmare. She got between them and the planet. She took the attacks that had been aimed at our cities onto her own hull instead, and her ship lit up under the strain, and her voice came through gritted and tight. I've got their attention, she said. They're off the colony. They're coming for me now. Owen, where are you? Right here, said the deep voice, and a second human ship dropped into place beside hers, and together they turned to face the raiders that had meant to harm my world. I had been taught my whole life that humans were monsters, Deathworlders, creatures of violence from a world of violence, dangerous and cruel and best avoided. The Concord said it. Our own teachers said it. I had believed it without ever once asking whether it was true. And here was the truth, painted in light across my signal board. The monsters had come when no one else would. The monsters were standing between my people and harm. The monsters were taking the blows so that 2 million strangers could keep breathing. If these were monsters, then I had spent my whole life misunderstanding the word. The Vral, for their part, were not used to this. I could read it in the way their ships moved, the sudden confusion in their once lazy formation. They had come expecting a harvest, a slow and easy meal. Instead, they had run into something that hit back, and not just hit back, but hit back with a fury and a refusal that they clearly had never encountered before. Their lead ship sent a transmission across the open channel, a cold and grinding demand, the kind of message used to break the spirit of trapped prey. Unknown vessels, it said, in the flat translated voice of the Vral. You have entered a claimed harvest. Withdraw, or be added to it. This world belongs to us now. Surrender what you cannot keep. There was a silence on the human channel. And then, one by one, the human ships began to laugh. I had never heard the sound before. I did not have it in my own language. It rolled across the channel, warm and wild and utterly unafraid. The laughter of people who had been told to surrender by something that did not understand them at all. It was not cruel laughter. It was something stranger. It was the laughter of people who had stared down far worse than the Vral on the death world that raised them, and had survived, and who found the demand of these slavers almost funny in how badly it missed the mark. Dawson's voice came through last, still warm, still calm, and underneath the calm was a thing as hard as the cold between stars. "Vral command," she said. "I want to make sure I understand you. You're telling us to surrender a world that's already under our protection. You're telling 2 million people they belong to you, and you're saying this to a human fleet." A pause. "I'm going to give you one piece of advice, and it's the only one you'll get from me. Run. Run now, and run fast. And maybe you live to tell your friends what happens when you point your ships at people we've decided to keep safe. Because we're not leaving. We don't leave. And every second you stay here, you're learning why the rest of the galaxy is afraid of us." The Vral did not run. They did not understand the warning. How could they? They came from a place where the strong took from the weak, and no one ever came to even the scales. They had never met a people who would cross the whole galaxy to stand between a stranger and harm, for no profit, for no reason, simply because the stranger had asked. They would learn. In the hours that followed, they would learn it completely. But in that moment, as the laughter faded and the human ships tightened their formation around my fragile station like a closing fist, I turned to Onua, and I found that I was shaking, not from fear now, but from something else, something rising and bright and overwhelming. "They came," I said. "They actually came. No one came, and then they came." Onua's eyes were wet. "Keep the beacon lit, Sael," she said softly. "Keep it lit. Whatever happens now, we are not alone." I bent back to my board, and I poured everything I had into keeping that single small light burning in the dark, the light that had called the Deathworlders to us. The Vral pods still clung to our docking ring, and I could hear the awful scraping as they tried to force their way in. The battle outside was far from won. The humans were outnumbered, and their ships, brave as they were, could only take so many hits before even their stubbornness ran out. But for the first time since the alarm had screamed that morning, I let myself believe that we might live to see the next sunrise. A new alert flashed across my board, and my brief hope curdled into ice. I read it twice to be sure. Then I opened the channel to Cold Harbor with hands that had begun to shake all over again. "Dawson," I said. "Captain Dawson. The Vral. There are more of them coming. My sensors just caught a second group dropping out of warp at the system edge. They were holding in reserve. They were waiting." I forced the words out. "There are at least 40 more ships inbound." 40, Dawson. You are 9. They are about to be more than 50. There was a pause on the channel. I braced myself for fear, for retreat, for the sensible and civilized choice to cut losses and flee, the choice every Concord world would have made. Instead, Dawson's voice came back, and there was no fear in it at all. There was something I could only call a terrible, steady joy. 40 more, she said slowly, as if savoring the number. All of them, dropping in right here, in one place, where we can reach them. A short breath of that grim human laughter. "Sael, honey, you just gave me the best news I've heard all day. Tell your people to hold on a little longer." The Vral just made this a lot simpler. They brought the whole nest to us. I did not understand her then. I thought, perhaps, that the long burn had broken something in the human mind, that she had gone past fear into madness. 40 more ships was not good news. It was the end. But Dawson was not mad. She understood something about her own people that I had not yet learned, something I would only come to understand fully in the desperate hours that followed. And as the second Vral fleet bore down on us, 50 ships against 9, the humans did not pull back even a single length. They turned to face them, all of them, every scarred and ugly ship, and they formed up around my fragile, gentle station like a wall, and they got ready to do the impossible thing that humans do, the thing that had earned them their terrible name, and their lonely place at the edge of the civilized galaxy. They got ready to hold. The second Vral fleet came on like a dark tide, and for the first time the humans were truly outnumbered, badly and obviously, in a way that no amount of stubbornness should have been able to answer. I kept count from my board because I could not stop myself. 9 human ships, 51 Vral, counting the ones that had survived the first clash. The math was simple and merciless. By every law of war the Concord had ever taught me, the humans should already be gone. And yet they held. I want to tell you what I saw, because I do not think the gentle peoples of the galaxy have ever truly understood it, and I think they should. I think everyone should know what the humans did above my world that day, so that no one ever again says the word Deathworlder as if it were only a warning. The humans fought in a way that broke every rule I knew. The Concord teaches careful war, war at a distance, war where you preserve your ships and your crews above all else, where retreat is always wiser than risk. The humans threw all of that away. They closed the distance. They drove their ships in among the enemy where the fighting was thickest and most dangerous, because, I slowly realized, that was where they could do the most good, and a human cannot stand to be anywhere other than where the most good can be done. I watched the ship called Stubborn take a blow that should have ended it, watched its hull buckle and its lights flicker, and I waited for it to fall back, to limp away to safety as any sensible ship would. It did not fall back. Its captain, a steady woman named Grace, whose voice I came to know, brought it around in a tight, screaming turn, and put it right back into the fight, venting air and trailing fire, still firing its guns, because there were colonists below who needed those guns to keep firing, and Grace was not the sort of person who could stop while that was true. "Stubborn, you're hurt bad," Dawson said over the channel. "Pull back, get behind last light, let her cover you." "Negative, Captain," Grace answered, and her voice was calm and stretched thin and absolutely certain. "I've still got teeth. There's 2 raiders trying to flank the station. I'm the only one in position. I'm holding." "Grace, I'm holding, Captain." A pause, and then gentler. "It's fine. This is the job. This is why we came. This is why we came." I heard that phrase again and again that day, from a dozen human voices, and each time it cut deeper into the story I had been told about who these people were. Monsters do not say "this is why we came" when offered a chance to flee. Monsters do not put their broken ship between strangers and harm, and call it the job. The Vral did not understand it either, and their confusion was their undoing. They fought the way they always had, the way that had always worked, expecting their prey to break and run. But the humans would not break, and they would not run. And slowly the Vral began to make mistakes, the mistakes of creatures faced with something outside their entire experience. Holly, on the ship called Spite, found one of those mistakes and drove straight through it. A gap had opened in the Vral formation, a brief, careless gap, and where a Concord captain would have noted it and waited for a safer chance, Holly hurled her ship into it, without a heartbeat of hesitation. She tore through the center of the enemy fleet, all alone, her guns hammering in every direction, scattering the Vral ships into chaos, breaking their careful hunting pattern into a panicked swarm. "Holly, what are you doing? You're in the middle of all of them," came Owen's deep voice, sharp with worry. "Yeah," Holly said, and I could hear the fierce grin in her voice. "And now they're all looking at me instead of the station. Come get them off my back, you slowpoke." And Owen did. They always did, these humans. No matter how reckless one of them was, no matter how impossible the spot they put themselves in, another human always came for them. They threw themselves into danger for each other as freely as they threw themselves into danger for us. And the bond between them was a thing I could feel even across the cold sensors of my board. A bond stronger than fear, stronger than sense, stronger than the simple desire to live. I had been taught that a death world breeds killers. I was beginning to understand that I had it backward. A death world, a place where everything tries to end you, where the ground itself is heavy enough to break you, and the sky rains down fire, does not breed killers. It breeds something else. It breeds creatures who have learned, deep in their bones, that the only way to survive a world that wants you dead is to refuse, together, completely, and never once let go of one another. It breeds people too stubborn to die. And too stubborn, it turned out, to let anyone else die either, if they could possibly help it. But stubbornness has a cost, and I watched that cost come due. The ship called Cold Harbor, Dawson's own ship, was at the heart of the worst of it, and it had taken too much. I could see it on my board, the slow dimming of its systems, the spreading damage, the way it began to move more slowly, more heavily, like a swimmer growing tired in deep water. The Vral sensed it too. 3 of their ships broke off and turned toward the wounded human flagship, smelling weakness, moving in for the strike. "Captain, you've got 3 on you," Owen called. "I can't reach you in time. Holly's pinned. You need to break off." Dawson's voice was tight with strain now, the calm cracked but not broken. "I see them. Break off, Captain. Get clear. We'll cover the station." There was a long pause, too long. I gripped my board. "There's a gap behind me," Dawson said slowly. "If I break off, it opens up. Those 3 slip past me, and they've got a clear run at the station. Sal's station. 2 million people." Another pause. "I'm not opening that gap." "Captain, I'm not opening the gap, Owen." Her voice was perfectly steady now, steady in a way that frightened me more than any scream could have. "Hold your position. Protect the colony. That's an order. I've got these 3. I'm going to keep them busy." I knew, listening, what keeping them busy meant. I knew what it would cost her, and I could not bear it. I opened the channel before I even knew I meant to. "Captain Dawson," I said, my voice shaking, "please, do not do this. We are not worth." "Sael." Her voice softened. "Just for me. Just for a moment. In the middle of everything." "Yes, you are. That's the whole point. You are worth it. Every single one of you down there. That's not even a question. That was never a question. The only question was whether anybody would show up to prove it." A breath. "We showed up. Now keep that beacon lit, and let me do my job." And then Cold Harbor turned, alone and wounded and trailing fire, and put itself squarely in the path of the 3 Vral ships, between them and my world, and held there, an immovable wall of human stubbornness, taking everything they could throw so that not one blow reached the colonists below. I have lived a long life since that day. I have seen many things. I have never seen anything braver than that ugly, broken human ship, choosing to stand in the gap, when running would have been so easy, when no one would have blamed her, when every law of sense and survival screamed at her to save herself. She did not save herself. She saved us, and as her ship shuddered under the assault of the 3 raiders, her voice came through one last time, and it was not afraid, and it was not sad. It was almost gentle. "Cold Harbor's going to be busy for a while," Dawson said. "Owen, you've got the fleet. Keep them together. Keep the colony breathing. And Sael," a pause, the smallest catch in her voice, "thank you for sending that signal. A lot of people gave up on you today. I'm real glad we didn't." "Captain," I whispered. I had no other words. "Captain, please." But there was nothing more I could do, and nothing more she would do except the impossible, stubborn, beautiful thing she had already chosen. Cold Harbor held the gap, and the 3 Vral ships poured everything into her, and behind her my world kept breathing. 2 million gentle souls who would never know the name of the human woman dying to keep them safe. And something happened to me then, in that moment, that had never happened to any Ilve in all our long and gentle history. I felt anger. Not the bright thin fear I had carried all morning, not the helpless grief of watching from a safe distance, while braver creatures bled. Something hotter, something that rose up from a place inside me I had not known was there, a place my people had spent generations pretending did not exist. I looked at the wounded human ship holding the gap for us, and I looked at the Vral closing in to finish her, and I found that I could not simply watch. I would not simply watch. I refused. I am a signal keeper. I have never touched a weapon. My whole people swore an oath never to build one. But as I sat there at my board, watching a stranger from a death world die to keep my children safe, I understood for the first time what the humans had known all along, what their terrible world had taught them, and our gentle one had let us forget. There are things worse than fighting. There are things worse than risk. And the worst thing of all, the only truly unforgivable thing, is to have the power to answer a cry for help, and to choose, instead, to stay safe and silent, and let the dying die alone. The Concord had chosen that. The beautiful, peaceful worlds had chosen that. They had heard our signal, and they had wished us well, and they had stayed exactly where they were. The humans had chosen differently, and now one of them was paying for that choice in the only currency that ever truly mattered. I would not let it be for nothing. I turned from the battle to the great machine at the heart of my station, the thing I knew better than anything else in the universe, our communications beacon, the most powerful transmitter in the sector, built to throw a signal across the whole vast cold of space. It was not a weapon. It had never been a weapon. My people would never have built a weapon. But a signal is energy, and energy, focused tightly enough, aimed precisely enough, is force. My hands began to move across the board, faster than they had ever moved, doing a thing that no signal keeper had ever been trained to do, a thing that broke the oldest oath of my gentle people. I began to turn our beacon, our voice, the great instrument we used to call for help, into something that could answer harm, with harm. Sael, Anua had seen what I was doing. Her face was a war between horror and hope. Sael, that is forbidden. The oath. Our ancestors swore. Our ancestors swore never to harm the innocent, I said, and my voice did not shake at all now. They are not innocent, Anua. And up there, a stranger is bleeding to keep us safe. And I will not sit here and watch and do nothing while she does it. We are not nothing. They came all this way to prove we are worth something. The least we can do is prove them right. Onua stared at me for a long moment, and then, slowly, she reached out one pale hand and laid it over mine on the board. "Tell me what you need," she said. And so, on a gentle station above a gentle world, two creatures who had never in their lives raised a hand against anyone began, together, to fight back. Not because we had stopped being who we were, but because the humans had shown us, in the most terrible and beautiful way, what it truly meant to be good. I aimed our beacon at the lead Vral ship attacking Cold Harbor, and I poured every ounce of power our station had into a single, tight, screaming beam of focused energy, and I sent our voice into the enemy, not as a plea this time, but as an answer. The beam from our beacon struck the lead Vral ship and staggered it, and across the open channel I heard 9 human crews fall silent in surprise, and then I heard Dawson laugh, weak and delighted, from inside her dying ship. "Was that the station?" she said. "Sael, did you just shoot something? I thought you said you didn't have any weapons." "We did not," I said, my hands flying across the board, already aiming the beacon again. "We built one, just now, out of our voice." I fired again, and the Vral ship that had been about to finish Cold Harbor reeled away, its systems scrambled by the raw flood of focused energy. "You held the gap for us, Captain. Now we hold it for you. Break off. Get clear. We will keep them off you." For a moment there was no answer, and I feared the worst. Then Cold Harbor's engines flickered back to life, dim but alive, and the battered human flagship began to limp away from the 3 raiders that had been about to overwhelm it, sheltered now behind the lash of our beacon. "Well," Dawson said softly, "I'll be." The gentle people grew teeth. A pause, and her voice turned warm and fierce all at once. "All ships, listen up. The station's in the fight. Sael's keeping the Vral off our backs. Let's not waste what she's giving us. Form on me. We push them now, together, all of us. Vielsha, can you keep that beam alive?" I looked at the power readings. The beacon was never meant for this. It was already running hot, already straining, already pushed far past anything its makers had imagined. Every shot risked burning it out entirely. If it failed, we would have no voice at all, no weapon and no way to call for help. "I can keep it alive," I said, "for a while. Tell me where to aim." And then a strange and wonderful thing happened. The battle, which had been 9 ships against 51, became something else. It became 9 human ships and 1 gentle station, fighting as a single thing, the humans calling targets, and the station answering, my beacon clearing the way, and the human ships pouring through the gaps I opened. We were not a fleet. We had never trained together. We did not even share a language without the translators. And yet we moved together, as if we had fought side by side for a lifetime, because we wanted the same thing with our whole hearts, and wanting the same thing turned out to matter more than any amount of training. I aimed the beacon, and Onua fed it power, and the humans threaded through the chaos I made, and slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The Vral, who had never in their long career of harvesting helpless worlds met anything that fought back, did not know how to fight a thing that would not stop. They had numbers, they had bigger ships, but they did not have the one thing that the humans had in endless supply. The thing I finally understood was the true source of their terrible reputation. They did not have the refusal. They did not have that deep, unbreakable, death-world-born refusal to give up, while there was still breath in their bodies and someone left to protect. "Holly, raider breaking toward the colony on your low side," Owen called. "I see it. I'm on it." Spite peeled away to chase it down. "Grace, how's Stubborn holding?" "Held together with hope and spite, Captain, but still holding." "Send me somewhere useful. There's a cluster forming up to make a run at the station. Break them up." "On my way." And through it all, between the calls for targets, the humans talked to each other in a way that astonished me. They joked, they teased. In the middle of the most desperate fight I had ever witnessed, with the odds stacked impossibly against them, they laughed and bickered, and called each other names, and checked on one another constantly, a steady, warm river of voices that never stopped flowing. I understood, listening, that this was how they bore it. This was the secret of the Deathworlders. They did not face the darkness alone and grim. They faced it together, holding tight to each other, refusing to let even fear come between them. The teasing was love. The jokes were courage. Every voice on that channel was saying, underneath the words, "I am still here. I have not let go of you. We are still together." It was the most human thing I ever saw, and it was beautiful. But beauty does not stop the cost from coming due. The Vral, even broken and confused, were many, and the humans were few, and ships began to fall. Last Light went dark and silent and drifted, its crew working desperately to bring it back. Stubborn, true to its name, kept fighting long past when it should have stopped, until even Grace's iron voice grew thin and ragged. And my beacon, my poor brave beacon, was dying. I could feel it through the board, the heat building past every safe limit, the systems crying out, the slow, certain knowledge that each shot might be the last. "Sail." Onua's voice was tight. "The beacon, it cannot take much more. If we keep firing, it will burn out completely. We will lose everything, our voice, our weapon, all of it." I knew she was right, and I knew, too, that the humans needed me. Without the beacon clearing their way, the Vral numbers would close in again, and the impossible balance we had built would tip back toward the dark. I made my choice. I had been making impossible choices all day, and I had grown almost used to the weight of them. "Then we burn it out," I said. "All at once, one last time. Onua, I want you to give me everything. Every drop of power this station has. I am going to put it all into a single shot, the biggest the beacon can make. And I am going to give the humans the opening they need to finish this." Onua looked at me, and I saw in her gentle face that she understood exactly what I meant, and that she was afraid, and that she was going to do it anyway. "It will leave us defenseless," she said quietly. "If it is not enough, we will have nothing left." "Then I will make it enough," I said. I opened the channel to the human fleet. "Captain Dawson, listen, I have one shot left in this beacon. One. After it fires, the station's voice is gone, and so is our weapon. I need it to count. Tell me where the Vral are weakest. Tell me where one strike does the most. Give me the spot, and I will open a door, and I need you to drive your whole fleet through it, and end this, because I will not be able to do it twice." There was a brief silence. I could almost feel Dawson thinking, weighing, calculating, the way these humans did, fast and sharp under terrible pressure. "Their command ship," she said. "The big one, center of the formation. It's holding them together. They're slavers, Sail. They only fight as long as someone's making them. You knock out that command ship, the rest lose their nerve and scatter. But it's shielded heavy, and it's deep in the middle of all of them. We can't punch through to it from here, not without losing half the fleet trying." "You will not have to punch through," I said. "I will. Mark it for me." The targeting data flowed across my board, the great dark command ship glowing at the heart of the enemy swarm. I locked the beacon onto it. I felt Onua begin to pour the station's power into the machine. All of it, the lights dimming around us, every system going dark to feed the one last shot. "Everyone," Dawson said over the channel, her voice ringing out clear and strong to all 9 human crews. "The station's going to open a hole right in the center, right at the command ship. When it does, we go. All of us, everything we've got, straight up the middle. This is the one. This is what we came for. Hold the line one more time, and then we finish it. Are you with me?" And 9 human crews answered her, one after another, their voices fierce and tired and unbroken. "With you, Captain. All the way. Light it up, sail." I waited. The power built and built, the beacon screaming under the strain, the readings climbing past every red line into territory no machine of my people had ever been pushed. Onua's hands shook on the controls. The whole station trembled around us, and I watched the Vral formation, waiting for the moment. The single perfect moment when their command ship sat most exposed. It came. "Now," I breathed, and I fired. The beacon released everything at once, all the power of the station, all the gathered fury of a gentle people who had finally found something worth fighting for, in a single blinding spear of light that crossed the dark and struck the Vral command ship square in its shielded heart. The shields held for half a heartbeat, then they shattered, and the great dark command ship came apart, its systems failing all at once, the brain of the enemy fleet going suddenly and completely silent, and the beacon died with it. Every light on my board went black. The hum I had listened to my whole life, the soft, constant voice of my station, fell quiet for the first time in my memory. We had spent everything. We had no voice left, no weapon, no way to call for help. We were as defenseless as we had been when the alarm first screamed that morning. But it did not matter, because in the same instant, the humans went up the middle. I could not see it on my dead board. I could only hear it, through the one battery-powered channel I had left, the human voices rising into a single fierce roar, as 9 scarred ships drove together through the hole I had torn in the enemy's heart, straight into the leaderless, panicking Vral fleet. And just as Dawson had promised, without their command ship holding them together, the Vral broke. They were slavers, raiders, hunters of the helpless, and they had never had courage of their own. They had only had numbers and fear. Take away the thing that drove them, throw them into chaos, show them a foe that would not stop coming, and they did the only thing such creatures ever truly know how to do. They ran. The Vral fleet scattered into the dark, fleeing in every direction, abandoning the harvest, abandoning each other, abandoning the world they had come to take. The humans let them go. They did not chase. They had never wanted to fight the Vral. They had only wanted to stand between the Vral and us, and now that the danger was running away, there was no more standing to be done. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard. I sat at my dead board in the dim and powerless comms deck, Onua beside me, both of us trembling, neither of us quite able to believe it. Outside, in the sudden quiet, 9 battered human ships drifted above my unharmed world, scarred and burning and victorious, having done the thing the entire civilized galaxy had said could not and should not be done. And then Dawson's voice came through my one small channel, exhausted and warm and full of a quiet wonder. "Valsha," she said. "Sael, you still with me down there?" "I am here," I said. My voice broke on the words. "We are here. We are all here. You did it. They are running. They are gone." "We did it," Dawson corrected gently. "All of us. That last shot, Sael, that was something else. Where did gentle people learn to aim like that?" I looked at the dead beacon, the great voice of my people that I had turned, just this once, into a thing that could protect instead of only plead. I looked at Onua, at the tears on her gentle face, at the impossible, beautiful, terrible day we had all somehow survived. "We learned it from you," I said. "Today, we learned it from you." The Concorde arrived 11 days later, and by then everything that mattered had already been decided. They came in their beautiful gleaming ships, dozens of them, far more than would have been needed to drive off the Vral, all of them arriving now that the danger was safely past. They came with speeches and ceremonies, and carefully worded statements of relief. They came with medals they wished to give and proclamations they wished to read. They came, in short, to be seen helping, now that helping cost them nothing. I watched their perfect ships settle into orbit around my world, and I felt none of the awe I would have felt 11 days earlier. Something in me had changed forever in the hours of that battle, and I could no longer look at the gentle, civilized worlds the way I once had. I knew now what their gentleness was worth when it was tested. I had heard their regrets, their wishes of strength, their reasons why they could not come, and I had seen who came instead. The humans were still with us when the Concorde arrived. They had not left. Of course they had not left. They had spent the 11 days helping us rebuild, their crews working alongside ours, repairing what the Vral had broken, tending our hurt, sharing their food and their tools and their rough good humor. The ones who had survived, that is, because not all of them had. Cold Harbor had limped through to the end of the battle and held together just long enough to see the Vral scatter, and then its long-suffering hull had finally given out. Dawson had gotten her crew off in the escape pods, every one of them, refusing to leave until the last person was clear, the way I had already learned to expect from her. She lived, her ship did not, and when I finally met her in person, this small, tired, soft-spoken woman who had crossed the galaxy to stand between my world and harm, she did not look like a monster at all. She looked like someone's mother. She looked kind. But others had not been so lucky. 3 human ships had been lost with their crews, and I learned their names, and I wrote them down, because I had decided that no one would forget them while I lived. Last Light, which had gone dark in the middle of the fight and never come back, and 2 others, whose captains and crews had given everything they had, so that 2 million strangers they had never met could see another sunrise. When the Concorde delegation came aboard my station, they were polite. They were graceful. They thanked us for our survival, as if we had achieved it ourselves. And then, in a quiet private meeting, the lead Concorde representative, a smooth and elegant being from one of the most beautiful worlds in the sector, made a suggestion that I will remember with disgust until the day I die. Of course, the representative said gently, we are all grateful that the situation resolved itself, and we are aware that certain, irregular elements were involved, the Terran vessels. A delicate pause. Naturally, given the sensitive nature of the Deathworld classification, and the importance of not setting a precedent that might encourage further human involvement in Concorde affairs, we believe it would be best if their participation were kept off the formal record. A simple statement that the colony defended itself, perhaps. It would be cleaner. It would avoid complications. I am sure you understand. I looked at this elegant, beautiful creature, sitting safely in my station 11 days after the danger had passed, asking me to erase the names of the people who had died to save my world, because acknowledging them would be inconvenient. And I understood, finally and completely, the difference between the 2 kinds of people the galaxy had shown me. No, I said. The representative blinked. I beg your pardon? No, I said again, and I rose to my full height, which is not very great, for the Ilve are not a large people, but I had never in my life felt taller. Their participation will not be kept off the record. It will be the record. I am the signal keeper of this station. I keep the truth, and I send it out into the dark, and that is exactly what I am going to do. Signal keeper, I really must advise. You sent us your regrets, I said. All of you. I have them saved. Every message. The Veshti who were too far, the Scythia who were too busy. Your own council, who found our situation outside their operational scope. I have them all, and I have the only message that mattered, the one from a rough little channel on the edge of the galaxy, the one that said, we hear you, we are already burning, hold on. My voice did not shake. You want me to erase the ones who came, to protect the comfort of the ones who did not. I will not do it. I would sooner erase myself. The representative left my station without another word, and the Concorde delegation departed soon after, their beautiful ships gleaming as they slipped away, taking their medals and their speeches with them. I did not watch them go. I had work to do. I went back to my board, to the beacon we had repaired in those 11 days, the great voice of my people, and I composed the truest message I had ever sent. I told the whole story, every part of it, holding nothing back. I named the worlds that had refused us. I named the humans who had answered. I read into the permanent galactic record the names of every human crew that had fought above Vailsha, the living and the lost alike, and I read the names of the 3 ships that would never go home. And I told the galaxy exactly what those people had done, and exactly why, and exactly what it had cost them. And then I sent it out, on every channel, to every world, with the full power of our beacon, so that it could never be hidden, or erased, or quietly forgotten. I made it the loudest thing my station had ever said. The humans helped us finish our repairs, and then it was time for them to go, back out to the edges of the galaxy, to the lonely, dangerous spaces where they lived and worked, unwelcome in the gentle worlds, doing the jobs no one else would do. Before she left, Dawson came to find me one last time. We stood together on the observation deck, looking down at Vailsha, my soft green world turning peacefully below us, 2 million souls going about their lives, never knowing how close they had come to losing everything, never knowing the names of the strangers who had saved them. You did a brave thing, I told her. All of you. I do not have the words for it in my language. I am not sure my language has the words, because my people gave up on needing them a long time ago. We thought we were better for it. We thought peace meant we no longer needed words for courage. I looked at her. We were wrong. You taught me that. Dawson was quiet for a while. Then she said, "Can I tell you something, Sael? About why we came? Please. It's not because we're brave. People always think that, the few times anybody bothers to ask. They think we're some kind of fearless warrior people from a warrior planet, and that's why we run toward the trouble everybody else runs away from." She shook her head slowly. "It's not that. We're scared the whole time. Every one of us. I was terrified up there. Grace was terrified. Holly hides it better than most, but she feels it too. We're not fearless. We just learned something, a long time ago, back on the world that made us." "What did you learn?" She looked down at my peaceful world, and her tired eyes were very far away. "We come from a place that tried to kill us every single day," she said. "Heavy ground, hard weather, things in the dark with teeth. For most of our history, the only thing standing between any one of us and the end was the others. Your family, your tribe, the people who heard you when you called out, and came, even when it was dangerous, even when it was stupid, even when it cost them. That's the only reason we survived a world that wanted us gone. Not strength, not courage, just that. We don't leave the screaming unanswered. We can't. It's the deepest thing in us. It's older than our cities and our ships and our laws. When something cries out for help, we come, even when it's foolish. Especially when it's foolish." She smiled, small and tired. "The rest of the galaxy thinks that makes us monsters. They classified us, you know. Deathworld threat. They keep us at arm's length because we frighten them, and maybe we should frighten them, but not for the reasons they think." I thought about everything I had seen. The ugly scarred ships racing across the galaxy for strangers, the wounded captain holding the gap, the voices on the channel, joking and bickering and loving each other in the middle of the dark. The names I had read into the record, the people who would never go home. "They call you Deathworlders," I said slowly, "and they mean it as a warning. A world that breeds killers. But that is not what it means at all, is it?" "No," Dawson said softly. "It isn't. A death world does not breed killers," I said, and I felt the truth of it settle into me like something I would carry for the rest of my life. It breeds the only people who will run toward the dying when everyone safe and civilized turns away. It breeds the ones who answer. That is what frightens the gentle worlds. Not that you are violent, that you are willing, that when the call comes, you come, and they know, deep down, that they never would. Dawson looked at me for a long moment, and then she nodded, once. "Yeah," she said quietly. "That's it. That's exactly it." She left soon after. The human ships lit their engines and turned for the edge of the galaxy, and I watched them go until they were only points of light, and then nothing at all, swallowed by the dark they lived in. They did not ask for thanks. They did not wait for medals. They simply went back to their lonely work, ready to answer the next call, from the next world, that no one else would help. In the seasons that followed, my people did something we had never done before. We built a monument, not to a victory, For we did not think of that day as a victory exactly. It had cost too much for that. We built it to the humans. A simple thing. On the highest hill of our largest city, where everyone could see it. The names of all the crews who had come for us, carved deep so they could never wear away. And beneath them, in our oldest and most formal script, a single line. They heard us, and they came. Children visit it now. They ask their parents who the humans were, and their parents tell them the story, the true story, the one I sent out into the galaxy on the full power of our beacon. They tell them about the day the gentle worlds wished us well and stayed home, and the Deathworlders crossed the stars to stand between us and the dark. And something else has changed too, something larger than my one small world. The message I sent out that day did not stay quiet. It traveled. Other worlds heard it. Other peoples, in their own moments of terror, remembered it. And slowly, across the whole sector, a new thing has begun to happen. When the harvest comes for some helpless colony, when the slavers or the raiders or the cruel and the hungry descend on a world that cannot defend itself, that world no longer sends its first cry to the Concord. They have learned what the Concord's regrets are worth. Instead, they send it to the edge of the galaxy. They send it to the rough little channels that no civilized world will use. They send it to the ugly scarred ships and the tired kind people who fly them. They send it to the humans, and the humans, every time without fail, answer. I am old now, as my people measure age. I have spent my whole long life as a signal keeper, listening to the dark, sending our voice into the cold. And I have learned that there is only one message that has ever truly mattered, the oldest plea in the galaxy, the one I sent in terror on the morning the alarm first screamed. We are dying. Please help us. For most of my life, I believed the only ones worth sending it to were the gentle and the civilized and the strong. I was wrong. I know now exactly who to call when the dark closes in. I know exactly who will answer. When I was young, my people prayed that the Deathworlders would never find us. We feared them above all things. We told frightening stories about the monsters from the world that breeds killers. I am not young anymore, and I have learned better. And now, when the dark closes in, when the alarm screams and the enemy fills the sky, and the gentle worlds wish us well and stay safely home, I do not pray that the Deathworlders will stay away. I pray that they will come. And so far, every single time, they have.